Welcome to this episode of Chai with Director Rai at IIMI. And today with me is Professor Julia Balogun, the Dean of the University of Liverpool Management School. And we are going to ask Julia some questions because today we have just signed an MOU and we have launched a program on sports management together. So Julia, very warm welcome to you at IIM Indore.
Thank you. I'm absolutely enjoying my visit. It's great.
I'm glad you are. Now, Julia, your academic journey has taken you through several esteemed institutions such as Cranfield, Bayes Business School, and now the University of Liverpool Management School. How do these diverse experiences inform your perspective on empowering women in academic and professional settings?
Well, to be honest, I think when I hadn't really thought about it till I got to Bayes Business School, and when I was there, we had some young women, some early career researchers join us, and one of them said to me, "But of course, you're a role model for us. Well, you've been very successful in research, and you've got children and a family, and that's what we want to do." And I was a bit like, "Oh, I'd never kind of thought about myself as a role model." I suppose that's when I started. Maybe I'm not going to say I started mentoring people, but we used to sit down at lunch and talk things over. And I think I was fortunate after that. Immediately after Bayes, I went to work at Lancaster University Management School, and that was run by a female dean, Professor Sue Cox, who is very well known as a dean in Europe. And working alongside her helped me to think about my management style and how I would lead a school. And that's kind of built my reflections about supporting other women. And I think what I'm most proud about at Liverpool is there weren't many senior women there when I arrived. But now I have 2 deputy deans, so women. Out of the 6 subject groups, 2 of the subject groups have women heads, and we've promoted a large number of women through to chairs. So I'm proud of that track record in terms of what I've managed to do to support other women in academia.
That's so wonderful, and I think all academic institutions need to take a leaf out of that book of yours. Yeah? So, but how do your personal experiences as a woman leader influence your research and leadership style? Particularly when it comes to fostering an inclusive and supportive environment for women in academia?
Well, I think what's really important is actually giving people role models, giving them the support they need at different career stages, and in particular, encouraging women to be ambitious. Sometimes I say to other women, say they're looking for a promotion, I'll say, pretend you're a man and rewrite that CV. Because women do often underplay what they do. They're embarrassed about saying what they're good at. So I think it's actually encouraging them to think aspirationally and say, for me, actually, one of my points in my career was reading someone else's CV and thinking, well, I've done all those things, and I've done more than that, but I don't trumpet it as much in my CV. So that's kind of the advice I'm giving. Go away and think about what you've achieved in comparison to other people, and don't be embarrassed about writing about it.
Absolutely. I think social sciences research also supports this, that women tend to underplay their strengths, and when they get assertive, they believe that they are being aggressive, and then they try to tone down, which is not a great thing, and clearly you are sending the right message across. Now, tell me one thing, can you share a recent insight or observation from your research that challenged your assumption or reshaped your thinking?
Oh, that's a hard one. I mean, I'm not as research active as I used to be because I've now been a dean for several years. So absolutely. I'm not sure what I count as recent research. I think in terms of what challenges your thinking, actually, and I'm not going to give an example from research. I'm just going to give an example actually about how society changes. And it's managing a school where a lot of the early career researchers are in dual career families. Both of them are juggling activities with young children. We now have people doing shared maternity and paternity leave. It's not always the women taking it. And actually trying to adapt and think about how you support people in those kinds of environments does mean you have to change the way you potentially think about people's careers.
That's so great, because even at IIM Indore, what we have done is we have also created something called family leave, and which is given not just to raise children, irrespective of whether you're the mother or the father, but also to take care of your elderly parents. So that's a new thing that we have started over here, and I think we're extremely proud of the way academia is now starting to look at these things. Now, another thing, serving as a fellow of prestigious organizations such as the Academy of Social Sciences and the British Academy of Management, they reflect your commitment and impact in the scholarly community. Now, can you share a moment of personal triumph or growth that stands out to you?
Personal triumph and growth. Oh, gosh. I would maybe I'd go back to my early academic career and actually achieving some of the publications I achieved because I'm going to be honest, I was fortunate. I had an incredibly good mentor. He was also my PhD supervisor, and he was always very supportive of actually achieving things internationally. So I think for me, some of the personal triumphs are some of the things I achieved in my early career. But what I'm most proud of is other early career research I've mentored and have come up behind me and done better than me. So for me, one of the best things about being a dean is the opportunity you have to mentor early career researchers and support them and see them develop.
That's quite amazing. And I still remember all my teachers, right from my school days to my PhD days, who were there as a support, as a mentor. And you're right. I mean, the joy that we get while celebrating the achievements of those who we mentor, I think far surpasses the joy that we get out of our own achievements.
Absolutely. I'm incredibly proud of some of the people I've supported. So.
Perfect. So, Julia, one of the things that both of us have in common is that we come from the corporate world to the academic world. Now, you transitioned from a career in consulting to academia, and that must have been a significant journey. Can you share what inspired this transition and how your experiences in both the realms have influenced your teaching, your research? How did you navigate these challenges and opportunities?
Well, I was encouraged to stay on and do a PhD after I'd done my undergraduate degree. After I finished, my tutor wanted me to stay on and do research, but I've been offered some fantastic jobs. So my undergraduate degree was computer science. I read computer science. It's a really unusual thing to have read in the 1980s, and I was offered some fantastic jobs, and other people couldn't understand why I would do a PhD rather than one of these fantastic jobs. But I took one of the fantastic jobs, and after 2 or 3 years, I decided that what I really wanted to do was actually go back. I miss learning. I miss building knowledge. And so I used the MBA I did with Cranfield to enable me to pivot. And I returned to Cranfield doing a part-time PhD because Cranfield was only MBAs in executive education in those days. So coming from consultancy, strategic consultancy, even without a PhD, I was deemed appropriate to lecture and work with executives, and that's what I did. And yes, doing the PhD, I built a love for research, and as you know, it's quite a hard path, finishing the PhD, learning how to publish. But again, it came down to my mentor, and he was very supportive. But yes, it was quite a big transition.
It is a big transition, and you were right about the hard part, PhD being the hard part, because in India, you never ask a PhD student as to when is she going to finish her PhD.
Exactly.
That's a question that shouldn't be asked. Taboo. Now, but tell me, beyond academia now, let's go beyond academia. What are some of your interests or hobbies that bring a sense of joy, a sense of balance in your life?
Oh, I have to laugh. Balancing becoming an academic as a mature person with a family, I think it's fair to say my family were my hobby. I mean, my children are grown up now, but, we still see the children regularly. They're adults now, should I call them children? But yes, so my family is, of course, one of my joys, one of my hobbies. We have a dog, so dog walking, going on holidays, those kinds of things.
Excellent. I like you even more. Lovely. Now, how do these pursuits complement your scholarly endeavors? How does your family support your scholarly endeavors and contribute to your overall well-being?
Well, I guess I've been very lucky in the sense that my husband has always been very supportive of my career. In fact, he sometimes says to people, Julia has a career. I don't. But he is self-employed, so that's one of the reasons I've been able to move around in my career, because he isn't fixed in one spot. His only need is to be close to an airport because he travels internationally. So yes, I'm very fortunate in the sense that I've had a family that's supportive of what I do.
Wonderful. And tell me, how do you stay grounded and connected to your purpose amidst the demands of academic life, and particularly the leadership responsibilities?
Well, I think, I mean, to me, I work as part of a team. We have a leadership team, it's not me. And I think I have some excellent colleagues who I've now worked with for several years, and that's what keeps you grounded. It's working with the team, remembering you are working with the team, listening to their opinions, taking it on board, and that's keeping it grounded. Plus, of course, we're deans, we attend conferences, we get to talk to other deans.
Absolutely.
We get to exchange stories, that always helps.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I think the other thing I would say, I'm very lucky in that I've always had a support from the top of the university. I mean, you asked me for women leaders previously. When I first arrived at Liverpool, the Vice-Chancellor was a woman, which is quite unusual. So having the other support of others in the university is tremendously important.
That makes a big difference. So are there any personal mantras or lessons learned that you would like to share, particularly in overcoming obstacles and breaking barriers as a woman leader?
Every cloud has a silver lining. I'm afraid you just have to remember that every cloud has a silver lining. You just have to find it.
Absolutely. Like they say that, if one door shuts on you, there's probably another one opening somewhere else.
Yes.
All right. Julia, now it's time to put you under fire.
Oh dear.
And there are going to be some rapid fire questions. You're not allowed to think. You're just allowed to give me the answer. What's your go-to comfort food when you need a pick-me-up during a busy day at work?
Flapjack.
Excellent. Okay. Tea, coffee, green tea, or juice?
Coffee in the morning, tea in the afternoon.
Wonderful. And we got some for you right here. If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be and why?
Oh my gosh. I'm going to say Queen Elizabeth I because I used to love the Tudor period.
Oh, wonderful. Great. Last book you read that left a lasting impression on you?
My problem is I can never remember book titles.
Do you remember the author?
I'm reading currently Midnight in Sicily, since we're going to Sicily for a holiday, and that's a great book.
Lovely. Beach vacation or mountain retreat?
Beach in the summer, mountain in the winter.
Oh, that's very interesting. Okay. Favorite way to unwind after a long day?
Probably just what I might just call just doing nothing in particular, just sitting there, maybe with a cup of tea, talking to the dog. It's after a long day, talking to the dog's more productive than talking to another person.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wise decision. One skill you wish you had mastered earlier in life?
Oh, gosh. Possibly having some personal confidence, I think.
Very interesting. Very interesting. And if you could travel back in time to your childhood, what advice would you give to your younger self?
What advice? I know, what, that's really difficult. I don't know what advice I'd give to my younger self. Maybe I wouldn't change a lot much that I did. I think I was very lucky in that I was very supported by my mother to be ambitious, to be well educated, to take opportunities her generation didn't have. So would I change the advice? I don't think I would.
All right. Finally, what's your guilty pleasure? TV show or movie?
Movie.
Okay, and the last one, describe yourself in 3 words.
Oh, gosh. In 3 words. Determined, I think. Like change, like variety. That's not 3 words. And I haven't got a third, I've run out.
That's okay. Julia, it was such a pleasure talking to you. It's always a joy talking to you and a learning experience for me. So here is to more collaboration and more conversations.
Thank you.
So this was our episode with Dean Julia Balogun.